anyway, so Daniel Hernandez, we can't call him Tekashi 6ix9ine anymore. I guess he lost his street cred, so he's now he's like a modern day mixture between a Suge Knight, Vanilla Ice type situation with a little more punk and a little more prep school boy in him. Because Suge Knight was a little older, you know, he was in his 20s, late 20s, you know, right? But it's kind of a similar thing to Death Row Records, you know, kind of where we fall for the okie doke in terms of what hip hop became. You know, somebody took hip hop, and it wasn't us. Somebody took the beautiful culture of hip hop and they gangsterfied it. They made it into a joke. They made it into a caricature. They made it into where you became cartoon characters. And Tekashi was the ultimate cartoon character. He had those big multicolored teeth, and he would always be like, you know, showing you his multicolored teeth. He had this crazy colored hair. He had tattoos all over his face. So he was really a minstrel show, right? He was a minstrel show, right? He knew this, and he knew what he had to be. How do I know this? Well, if you listen to Daniel Hernandez in court telling his story, they're like, so Mr. Hernandez, have you ever had a job? Yeah. I used to work as a bus boy at this restaurant, and we used to bus tables, and I did that for about a year and a half. So Mr. Hernandez, when did you start making music? Well, I had met this guy who told me that, you know, we could make music and da-da-da. Well, what kind of music did you make? Well, it was like rock and roll kind of rap. It wasn't what he was doing now. It was a different kind of music. And so, you know, he talked about the tour. So where'd you go on tour, Mr. Hernandez? Well, we went to Uzbekistan and the Ukraine, and we went to Poland and St. Petersburg, Russia, right? You know, he's politely giving the feds all the information they need, because the feds don't really play. Like the feds, if you decide to cooperate with the feds, then they are literally going to stick a gigantic stethoscope way up your ass. And if you miss one detail, like if they say, Mr. Hernandez, what is your shoe size? And you say, it's 11.5. And they find out that you really wear a size 10.5. Then they're gonna put a size 13.5 up your ass. They will give you extra years in prison. The feds do not play, you know. So that's why I feel so sorry for these guys, because you know, we see guys go into those situations like him, and he's also the second coming of Bobby Shmurda. I don't know if y'all remember, Bobby Shmurda was also out of New York, who was also doing videos, you know, toting guns and being gangster, who also got years in prison. And he also, like Tekashi or like Daniel Hernandez, they didn't really have good mentorship. They didn't have a father. Neither one of them had a father. Bobby Shmurda rapped about how his father was locked up in the pen. And I remember when I saw Bobby Shmurda at Epic Records, you know, and they had him dancing on the table like a monkey. Like, I don't know if y'all remember that, but he was really looking kind of ridiculous. But he felt like he was winning, because he had the record deal. He's like, I'm winning. He's like, you know, looking like I'm making money. I'm doing the shmoney dance, right? Like, you know, like, and they don't understand history. They don't know that there's a 300-year history of black men acting like buffoons in front of white people in order to get money, right? You ain't the first one to get money for coonery. Coonery is as old as prostitution and cockroaches. Like, it's been around since forever. So he's getting all this money, all the shmoney, as he called it. And what also happens is the money and power, shmoney, sorry, not money, he was making shmoney. I make money, he made shmoney. So when you get shmoney and power, it can become, it can intoxicate you. It can intoxicate you. You know, it's like a drug. You know, money affects the same region of your brain, as according to Professor Andrew Lowe at MIT. Money affects the same region of your brain as cocaine and sex and chocolate, right? So imagine somebody gave you a big pile of cocaine with some vagina on top, or penis, whichever one you prefer, and some chocolate to go with it. That's what money does. Money gives you a high. It makes you feel invincible. It makes you incredibly happy. So because these guys were getting shmoney, they thought everything was okay. Now, here's the thing, right? This is where OGs are important. This is where having a father figure is very important. This is what these poor young men did not have. Remember, does anybody remember when Tekashi 6ix9ine went on the Breakfast Club? Does anybody remember when Tekashi went on the Breakfast Club at the peak of his career, when he was making the most shmoney and he was selling the most records? His videos were getting, his video with Nicki Minaj, I looked it up, it had 800 million views or some ridiculous number like that, right? And did anybody remember Charlemagne, the guy? Charlemagne might be crazy to y'all, but he ain't stupid. I know Charlemagne. I've watched him. I've analyzed him. 13 years ago, I gave Charlemagne a copy of my book, What If George Bush Were a Black Man, on the Wendy Williams show. And he said, I'm going to read your book. And I was like, yeah. Everybody said, you know, people just say that. Like, I met Damon Wayans. He said the same thing. I want to read your book. I'm like, yeah. Oh, sure. Yeah. Here you go. Yeah. Good luck reading it. I don't believe it because I know people are busy. Charlemagne read that book. He really read, and you read my book. You're not going to be you're not going to think like a normal person. You're going to see things in a whole different way. So Charlemagne was just talking to Tekashi, like, you know, like as an older brother, and saying, this ain't necessary. You know, you ain't got to keep it gangster like this all the time. At that time, Tekashi had a tour called Test My Gangster, right? Test My Gangster, right? And a smart person understands what that means. Like, words are powerful. So when you have a tour called Test My Gangster, and you're the loudest peacock, you've got the biggest colors, and you're repping the hood, is, you know, like you're the king of the hood and the king of New York and all this other stuff. Kings are begging to be tested already just by being the king. In China, they have a saying that says the fattest pig always gets slaughtered. So when you are the fattest pig, you're so supposedly king of New York. You remember 50 Cent named Tekashi 6ix9ine the king of New York. When you're claiming to be the king of New York and you go around the world with a tour called Test My Gangster, then you're basically saying, I'm here, come get it, right? Like the Black Panther when he says, I take on any challengers. Well, if you take on any challengers, you better be ready for that challenge. And I don't think Tekashi was ready for that. I don't think he